I'm not the biggest Mario guy. I've always liked the Mario games and I've grown quite fond of some of them over time, but out of the two, I was always a Sonic guy, and even on his home turf, I was way more of a Zelda guy than ever a Mario one. That being said, it'd be untruthful for me to imply that Mario isn't, at least to some degree, important to me. When I think about Mario, my mind brings up two things. First, Super Mario Galaxy, and second, the feeling of safety. Let's first talk about the game. Super Mario Galaxy is a game that many hold in high regard as one of the best, if not the best, 3D Mario game. Over the last half a decade or so, it feels like there's been a lot of nostalgia surrounding this game in particular. And with nostalgia, I think sometimes there's a hesitancy towards potential hyperbole because, after all, we could just be looking at this game exclusively through the rose-tinted glasses of nostalgia. But I think, at least for me, Galaxy has forever and always been a truly special game. It has one of the greatest soundtracks I've ever had the pleasure of listening to. It feels like the peak of a phenomenal career of Mario performances for Charles Martinet, and overall, I think it's simply one of the best designed video games of all time. For me, this game is the most the Wiimote ever really felt like it just worked, control-wise. And actually, on the whole, this just feels like a mesmerising showcase of what great developers could do with innovative, less power-focused hardware like the Wii. Like, the game looks great. These are all wonderful things that the game does brilliantly. But I actually think what makes this game feel so special to me is the feel of everything. The atmosphere is all-encompassing and sometimes even a little suffocating. The galaxies are vibrant and beautiful, some more than others, but outside, surrounding that vibrancy is just space. Vast and empty. Beautiful in its own right, but also uniquely terrifying. This idea of the contrasting beauty and horror of space is only further emphasized by things like the black holes in this game. These things are terrifying! When I first encountered Galaxy, I was very young. I was in the early years of school, and my parents were both working difficult jobs with low pay and long hours. I don't remember if I ever got a copy of Super Mario Galaxy of my own. I think the limited money my parents could really spend on things like games went on stuff they were more confident I would like Sonic games or party games the whole family could enjoy. Because of those long hours though, their shifts sometimes meant they couldn't pick me up from school right away, so I used to go to an after-school club for a few hours, and this club had a Wii and a copy of Super Mario Galaxy. Let me tell you, the Wii was in high demand at this club, but there also wasn't many of us, so I'd say I got at least one night a week playing a few hours of Galaxy to myself. The time would go by so fast playing it. When I think about the context of that, I think I was playing the game at great times, like the stress of school was in the past, but my parents were still working, so I could focus entirely on the game. When I talk about that idea of the game having a suffocating atmosphere, I could really feel it here. I'd be in a room full of other kids loudly playing with toys and staff members talking, and yet, in this corner, stood directly in front of a shoddy old TV, so close that the staff would say my eyes would go square. I felt like I was somewhere other, in some place that isn't fictional but isn't real all the same. I was in Mario Galaxy, a sort of medium place where things were joyous and bright, but also surrounded by a sort of nothingness that I had no real understanding of at the time. I loved it. I was weirdly hooked on that feeling of being absorbed in something. It felt safe, like a blanket. It was honestly maybe the last time I felt such pure safety until recently. As I got older, space as a concept, a setting and a place became a fascination of mine. But going into my teen years, it started to absolutely terrify me. I just couldn't comprehend the idea that we as people are so tiny in the grand scheme of a vast and infinite nothingness that our individual choices could mean next to nothing at the end of it all. I hated that. How small it makes you feel. It made me feel like the things that made me upset shouldn't because they were insignificant, which then made me hate myself for getting upset at them in the first place. I've spoken a lot about my identity issues on this channel already, but that's important again here because this notion of feeling so small, combined with not knowing who you are, is a truly lethal concoction. Recently, these thoughts and feelings have been brought up again by a recent news story about an asteroid. When it comes to feeling so small in the vastness of space, I can't help but then think about what the ideal end of life looks like for me. You know, how do I become satisfied with a life so small? I was daydreaming to myself the other day, daydreaming about what I would say if someone gave me a time machine and the chance to meet that version of myself, the one that's old and on his deathbed after living a long life. I asked him, how long does it take? How long does it take for us to figure out who we are? And he laughed and he said not too long, and he took a pause, he smiled, and he clarified. Just forever. In those moments I realised that I knew exactly what I would do if I was faced with that truth, that the inner cycle of never quite feeling like enough in such a universe as vast as ours is a forever one. Because I did it in the daydream. I took that same time machine and I travelled back to talk with him instead. Him being the little boy stood in after school club in front of the TV playing Super Mario Galaxy. I wanted to tell him what I knew now, that life is just like the game he's playing. There's beauty in the things Mario does and the environments he does them in, but there's also horror in some of the things that surround him, the black holes, the emptiness of space. That contrast of beauty and horror, neither cancelling the other out, is true to life too. He'll grow up and go through horrible things and feelings, but every hardship will make him the person he needs to be to see the beauty in the rest of it. Life has a harmony to it that way. If I could talk to that little boy now, I'd tell him that the all-encompassing safety that he feels right now, in this moment, playing Super Mario Galaxy in the corner of his after-school club, is a feeling that, no matter what, will return to him one day. It just might take a while for him to get there. Hang in there, little guy. You're more loved than you know. Thank you for watching this video. If you can relate in any way, please let me know down below. I love hearing from everyone about their favourite media and how they connect with it.